Welcome to the Money Room. We appreciate y'all for tapping in. This is a real estate investing platform where we're going to share with the world our years of experience, knowledge, and research of us closing a bunch of deals with various real estate investor strategies where we've been successful. With the purpose of this podcast is for others to learn from us and be just as successful or even more successful than us with real estate investing. My name is Lem, and my real estate investing strategy is mobile home investing.
I'm Morley. My primary real estate investment strategy is wholesaling.
What's going on, everyone? My name is Ant. My real estate investment strategy is the BRRRR strategy. Make sure y'all like, comment, and subscribe. On today's episode, I guess we're going to get into rehabs and managing and dealing with contractors, right? That's the secret sauce when it comes to real estate investing.
Yeah.
So
we begin a lot of questions on that too. Like most of the people that contact us on the Money Room, they're asking about rehabs, how much money, how much time, how to find contractors. So this is everything you need right here.
yeah, we're going to break it down. So Morley, I guess, for the audience or those that are new to the pod, right? Break down, I guess, the three different type of renovations: light, medium, and full gut.
Right. So, my primary strategy is wholesaling. I'm gonna touch on that.
We get it, yeah.
So, like when I'm sending out deals, typically if it's like a full gut, that means literally the whole property needs to go down to the studs.
Right.
So when I'm sending those numbers out, I estimate my cost to be like 80 to 85, sometimes a little bit more per square foot. So if a house is 1,000 square foot house, I'm timesing that by $80 to $85 if it's a full gut rehab, just to give an estimate number for that.
Okay.
If it's a medium, that's typically like, say they doing a lot of, that's not a full gut. They saving some floors. You're not really changing no rooms around, things like that. It's not going down to the studs. You're probably doing heavy mechanicals, if it's electric, some plumbing, stuff like that, but you're not gutting the place out. That's what I call like a medium rehab. And if it's light, that's all cosmetic. What I say by that is like, back to the medium rehabs, I'm estimating that to be like $60 to $65 a square foot. And then if it's a light rehab, that's like your kitchen, your bathroom, all cosmetic work. I'm not touching no floors, throw some paint up. That's like $40 to $45 a square foot. That's what I'm sending out when I'm getting things on the contract. I'm putting that into my budget for my buyers.
So to put that into perspective, right? You're investing in Philadelphia, right? You're in Philly. So your average row home, right? Your average row home, how many square feet is that?
It varies, but call it 1,200 square feet.
12?
3 bedroom, 1 bath is typically.
Okay, 3 bed, 1 bath, your average, right? So a light rehab, let's get some numbers on that. So
I don't got my calculator in front.
Right.
If I'm just doing paint, kitchen, bathroom, stuff like that, like I said, I keep it as a basic, because I'm a wholesaler at the end of the day. I do GC my own projects, but when I'm sending my numbers out, I keep it real, and this for all wholesalers. Don't get too crazy into the numbers. Right. It's the buyer's job to really do that. I give an estimate, like I said, light rehab, $40 to $45 times the square footage of the house, and that's going to give you whatever that number is. But I keep it real basic. I'm not getting into the kitchen is going to cost you this. That's not my job. I'm giving you real basic numbers, and typically my numbers are on point. You get what I'm saying? So like that's the buyer's job to decide, all right, cool, the kitchen going to cost me this. I can keep these floors, but I'm giving a basic generic number where, listen, I think it's going to cost you this to fix the property. If it fits in your numbers, that's what I think it is. You get what I'm saying? So probably get a little more into that, but I keep it real generic.
I would say, I guess to like give you real numbers, right? I'm a BRRRR guy, right? So I'm doing renovations on all my properties in most cases. A light rehab for me, I would probably say somewhere between 30, 40, based off of Morley's, I guess, explanation. If you're doing $40 a square foot times 1,000 square foot home, right, you're looking at 40,000. Okay. So that should, for the most part, kind of cover that. I would say your rehab is probably closer to 30, 35, and then that additional 5,000 to 10,000 is like your contingency. That's pretty much how it works. And then I would say, as you build out towards your full guts, especially with like the cost of labor and materials, which is something that has to be factored in, right, because of the economy that we're in right now, a full gut's probably going to cost you closer to 100, especially like if you're factoring a contingency.
Copy.
I guess my first question for y'all, right, or second question rather, is, which is probably the most common question, is how do y'all find your contractors and handyman? So I'll start with, I guess, Molly, and then let me, you could kind of.
So when I do mines, like my first couple rehabs, it was all referrals.
Okay.
Some people did refer me, some people that was trash. But you learn with that. But it's all referrals. So when I'm doing a demo, right? I'm asking a couple of my homies that did a lot of rehabs who they using for demo. I'm getting 3 different quotes on top of, like I said, my referrals, and I'm kind of going what I feel with that person. They showing me they work. Same thing with frame and electric, all of those different things. I'm asking for referrals from my buyers that I know they gonna recommend me somebody that's good. You know what I mean? And then I'm getting 3 different prices from all of those. And typically I'm going like the middle one. I never really go with the bottom. People want to do that, but what I found out is that bottom quote is typically probably going to be the person that do the worst work.
Molly, you said something powerful. One of the things I kind of learned early in the game is that people that do good business in this industry typically do good business with other people that do good business, right? So if a buyer, right, like you as a wholesaler, if you're dealing with a buyer that has done good business, or even an agent, asking those people for referrals to their contractors and handyman, they're ultimately going to give you someone, or they should be giving you someone that does good business as well, because people that do good business with other people that do good business.
Nah, that's a fact. I mean, for you, yours was you out of state handling your stuff, so it's a little different from me. Like I'm going, like say they giving me referrals, I'm going up and checking on projects. So how was you carrying it with finding different contractors? You know what I mean, and check on their work and stuff.
Right.
Like
so my whole investment strategy, at least investing in Maryland, is built on the Lone State real estate investment model.
Mm-hmm.
To answer your question directly in regards to like the quality of work, when I'm speaking, well, most of the contractors I met, like you said, are through referrals. I've also used Angelus, which is now Thumbtack, right? I'll just go in there, simply type in a zip code, type in the type of services that I'm looking to use, and I'll usually, like you said, look for 3 people, get 3 different quotes. I'll have them go out to the property. In most instances, I will provide like the locksbox code, and have them walk the property. And typically what I would ask of those contractors when they were like walking the properties is to, one, FaceTime me, or to take pictures and kind of send me like a formal quote. Okay. And then I would be able to take those quotes, compare them side by side, and see what I was getting, and to see more or less like what their opinion of what needed to be done was. And, by trial and error, and with experience, navigating different rehabs, I've been able to kind of build up a different Rolodex of contractors that I know do good work. So as I've replaced roofs, as I've done HVAC upgrades, right? If somebody does good work, I'll save their contact. And ultimately, now when I get into new projects, I know who my roofing guy is. I know who I'm going to for siding. I know who I'm going to for HVAC. And it's kind of rinse and repeat at that point.
That makes sense. So I know you ain't never hit me up for my contract.
So
you using the same type.
Right.
Lim is the contractor.
Like what you doing?
So with me, with mobile home investing, we're using handymen, not contractors, right? Handyman is somebody that has a skill set and they can make a lot of different small repairs, and they're typically way less expensive than a contractor, right? A handyman can be your uncle that knows how to lay floors, right? So we're using that. So with new investors with mobile home investing, it's important for you to get a lot of different quotes and talk to a lot of different people so you can know the difference between a good price and a bad price, right? You can find these handymen on things like what Ann said, Thumbtack, right? I found a good handyman by putting an ad on Craigslist before, right? And when you're talking to these handymen, you want to talk to people that are familiar with mobile homes, because mobile homes are different. The price range of the work is different. The scope of the work is different. A lot of things with mobile homes are they're common. So if you worked on one mobile home, you pretty much can work on all of them. a lot of other ways that I find handyman. If I'm driving through a mobile home park and I see somebody doing work, bro, I pull over and I talk to them. Like, okay, like what you do? What you know how to do? Oh, okay, what you doing here? Like, what's the price? Oh, for real? Okay, well, if I had a single wide, right, mobile home and I need you to put carpet throughout, how much would you charge me? You know, they'll tell a price. Like, I talk to everybody, take note of it, put it in my phone, right? Even at Home Depot, Home Depot is a great way. You know, you go there in the morning and you see people, you know, with their work clothes on with the boots, and they're buying floor, they're buying drywall. You know, I stop and talk to them like, yo, what's up, bro? What you got going on? You know, then I tell them like what I do. You know, do you work in mobile homes? Have you? Oh, for real? Let me see some pictures. You know, let me get some prices. You get what I'm saying? So I have a bunch of prices, and you know, a bunch of different people that I can go to.
Lim said, I mean, you said something powerful, right? When you're a real estate investor, especially like as a new one of the things that I feel like was some of the best advice I ever received was that when you start introducing yourself, right, moving forward, once you make that decision to become an investor, you want to introduce yourself as that, right? So it's like, hi, I'm Ant, I'm a real estate investor, because you never know who you're speaking with, right? And ultimately what happens over time is that people that are in that space, they'll let you know that they're in that space. So it'll be like, hey, I'm Morley, you know, I'm a GC, or, you know, I'm Morley, I'm the painter, and these are the services that I offer. And that's another like efficient way to kind of build up, you know, that context list of people that you can use to knock out work on your jobs.
Before we move on, like a funny joke. So how I found a couple of my solid contractors, bro. In Philly, it's like the Home Depot and the Boulevard, right?
Right.
Get there early, bro. It's 1,000 people looking for work.
Right.
Facts.
If you go there after like 9, you'll get the stragglers. That's the ones you don't want to deal with. You feel me? So get there like 6:30. Those are the people that's constantly getting work by like 9. You don't really want to touch them people. You feel me? But I done found like some of my best one that do like work in my house from that Home Depot on the Boulevard early in the morning. And that's you know what I'm saying?
I mean, like I said earlier, people that do good business usually do people with good business. So those to that point, right? Like the guy might be like, yo, I do painters, and his cousin probably do floors, and his mans do windows, and you could build the whole team if you could find one good guy.
Nah, that's a fact.
All right, so Lim, how do you like typically manage your contractors? Are you popping up at the job site every day? Like how every few days? Like how you spot checking their work?
I do. Like I'm very, you know, active in the beginning. When I first, you know, meet a contract, I'm there. I like to give direction, and while they're working, I like to reiterate the direction just to, you know, alleviate room for error. Right. So, like I said, with new investors, it's important for you to get a bunch of different quotes so you can know what's a good price, what's a bad price. And then after I find a handyman that, you know, that I feel comfortable with working with, and I agree on the price. Oh, rewind. Never be afraid to negotiate price as well with your handyman or your contractors, because some people will try to overcharge you just because they think that they can. You know, you don't want people to think that they could get over on you. So once I do have that price that we agree with, I always buy the material myself, and then I pay my contractors, well, my handyman, when they finish the work, right? And if you're an investor and you're worried about, you know, going to the store, buying the equipment yourself, you might not have a truck and stuff like that. You can always just have your handyman tell you what you need, and you can just order the material and get it delivered to the house.
Or what I've done recently is like you could just put their contact information, like at least Lowe's, right? They give you the option.
And they can pick it up.
Yes. You put their telephone number, email address, and they just show it, scan the barcode, and they can pick their stuff up.
Right. But I make sure that I buy the material just because, like what I said before, with mobile homes, the same thing you're repairing in this home, you're going to be repairing in the next home. So like, I like to know what I'm spending my money on so that I can keep track of it, because I'm gonna utilize that information for the next property.
Lim, in regards to like, and like Molly as well, like in regards to like y'all rehabs, are y'all typically doing things the same? Are y'all doing like cookie cutter projects where like it's the same template, or do you kind of approach rehabs differently each house? Like, do you paint the walls the same color?
Yeah, I'll answer that, because that, you know, that piggybacks back off of what I just said. Like I said, with mobile homes, most mobile homes, it's the same thing, you know, every single time. So the most consistent things that you're going to see with mobile homes is you're going to get soft spots in the floor and the subflooring, and that's just because with mobile homes, moisture gets under the home, so there's going to be a lot of soft spots. You're going to have holes in the floor, and you're going to have spots on the skirting that needs to be fixed. And the skirting is on the exterior of the home, it's across the bottom of the home, and it kind of protects underneath the home from animals, and it keeps heat in and cold out and stuff like that. But those are the most consistent things, and I fix them up the same exact way every time, right? I use 3/4 inch subfloor for the floor every single time. That fixes the soft spots. I use the same carpet with mobile homes, you know, where people live in mobile homes because they're affordable, you know, not because they're luxury. So I use the same 63 cents per square foot carpet every single time. You know, I use the same spackle. I use the same paint color just because I can buy it. And when I have extra, I just use it at the next property, you know? And now my handymen already know what's up. I give them the stuff. They know exactly what to do.
Molly, how about you?
So I'm gonna hit on the first question first, which is like managing my contractors. So going back to like when I first started, I had like a GC manage like my first couple projects, and I was like, so since I'm learning, I don't really know what's going on. So one thing you don't do is put all the control in with like within the contractor. You know what I mean? Like what I mean by that is you paying for material, they saying stuff is done. You know, you're paying them a GC fee to manage your project as well, but what you need to be doing is checking in to make sure work was done. I wasn't doing that. So like, say I paid for some work before, HVAC or something was supposed to be done, paid for it, bro. They spinning me around. I'm not checking on my project because I was living in Delaware at this time with this one, and it didn't get done. You know what I mean? Because I'm putting my faith all the way into somebody else, which you should never do. So even if it's a contractor that you, like a GC that you got hired for your job, still make sure that you checking behind their work before you send that payment to them. And that's what I learned. So even if you're going to go with a GC, make sure you're checking behind them. Now, since I GC my own stuff, I've cut out that cost of the GC and I added that within my own pocket.
Right.
So I manage my own guys. I got them on like a pay schedule where, say if they're going to start a project, I give them 25%, maybe 30% just to get the material, because I don't really like getting the material no more, me personally. And for some money for them to start the project. Okay. I don't do no 50% down. I don't do none of that. Once something's done, they're sending me pictures. And 8 times out of 10, I'm still going to go out there and look at the work to make sure it was done correctly.
And you can have them get the material now because you're familiar with what material you're getting and how much it costs. You know, you can do that now because you know what's going on.
Yep. So I let them get the material now because I got burnt out. I was delivering floors and I was doing everything myself trying to cut costs. You feel me?
Right,
but,
for sure.
Now, when I'm managing them, they sending me pictures. I'm checking in on the work. And then, like I said, say if it's 25% down and then they start the work, they finish something, then I'll give them another 25% once they're done that certain thing they're going to be done. You feel me? And that's how I pay my guys.
And you get the receipts too if they have to get something. That's important. You need all the receipts so you can verify what they're getting and what's going on.
And even with the receipts, what I do is I got like an account at Lowe's, Home Depot, where I pay for my stuff in advance. So all my stuff is under my account.
Right.
So they'll give me a printout. I can print out that stuff whenever. You know what I mean? That way it's not, I don't have a bunch of receipts on me, but I also tell them to give me the receipts as well. So that's kind of how I carry it with managing my guys now.
What about you?
So for me recently, right, like I've kind of been copy and paste within like my real estate investment journey on my portfolio, right? Like I've been buying in the same zip code. I've been buying houses that have the same dimensions, right? Usually a 3 bedroom, 1.5 bath, or maybe 2 baths. And then in regards to like materials and finishes, I've been doing the same thing, right? Same lowers, same uppers, same quartz. I've been refinishing a lot of the floors because a lot of the hardware has been decent within the properties. Same paint color, same light fixtures, same kitchen floors.
It's easier for you.
Yeah, it's rinse and repeat. Like you said, like once you kind of establish that benchmark of the aesthetic you want to meet, your contractors or your GCs, handyman, however you want to, whatever phrase you want to use, they know what to expect and they know how to execute it. And they know what quality or standard of work that you're requiring from them. right? It's a little bit different, I guess, like if you go, if you want gray cabinets and now you want blue cabinets, right? Now you kind of leave room for an error to kind of, I guess, happen, right? Because maybe it's the wrong shade of blue, as opposed to like if you do black lowers and white uppers every time, you can't really mess that up.
All right, so I got a question for you. And so, with you're talking about your standards, right?
Right.
So, are the standards different for a burr that you're gonna rent out versus a flip?
Well, the quality of work shouldn't be different, right? Like I still want good work regardless. But what I will say is that the standard in which the finishes are in the property is going to be different. So for rentals, ideally, right, like people that are executing the burst strategy are usually looking for more durable materials, if that makes sense, versus like a flip, right, that you're looking for an end buyer that's going to pay that premium price. What's going to generate that higher ARV is the high end finishes, your high end light fixtures or brass on the appliances or fixtures within the kitchen and bathroom. Like that's what's going to generate that, right? Whether it's brass or it's black, like those sort of, I guess, smaller details ultimately is what's going to generate those higher end ARVs.
Yeah, and even to touch on that, like with me, I gut everything out and I turn everything to duplexes. So like in Philly, if it's zone RM1, the lot size got to be 720. And if the house like 1,200 square feet, a little bigger than that, I'm fitting 2 bedroom, 1 baths in it. So
right.
RM1, the lot size got to be 720. That allows you to do 2 units. Just a little bit of how I buy, right? But like when I'm doing my rentals, I'm doing like white shaker cabinets or like gray shaker cabinets. Real basic stuff, you know what I mean? Like somebody for a flip, they're going to want something crazier than that, you know what I mean? And I'm doing quartz, or like on a flip, they might want a higher grade of countertops. Like I stick to the same script on all my stuff. It's going to look real nice, but if it's flip grade,
right,
it's just you just going to pay a little bit more for the materials. Like my bathroom, I'm going in there, I'm doing real basic tile. You get what I'm saying? It's going to look nice, but if it was a flip, I might spend, instead of $1 a square foot on like the tile, I might spend like $3 or something like that, $3-4, because I know I'm gonna get that back on the flip. But I'm not gonna do that on a rental.
Right. So I got a question for you. So with wholesaling, I know it's important for you to know your buyer, right? So when you're telling the buyer and you're going over numbers, do you pitch the numbers of the rehab differently to your buyer that's flipping it versus your buyer that you know that's gonna rent it out?
That's a good question. I don't. Typically, I don't. Like, if the number makes sense for, I always like, and that's why people buy from me all the time. I'm giving you real numbers on the back end of what that ARV is. I ain't giving you the best. Like, say if it's 220 and I seen something, an outlier that sold for 260, I'm gonna tell you that John 220. I'm gonna give you the estimate rehab on what I think the rehab is because I know my numbers. And if you wanted to do a rental or a flip, then that's kind of on you. But I'm not about to pitch 2 different things to you.
So your deals are so good that, the numbers will work whether it's a flip or it's a rental.
For the most
so
part.
you on point. Okay.
So it's not Morley's responsibility as the wholesaler to pitch those 2 numbers. Like he's communicating, right? Like it's the buyer, me, right? Coming into that property, getting a scope of work, which we didn't really highlight, right? A scope of work is essentially when you have a contractor or a GC walk a property and generate like a real written estimate, right? Now, estimates aren't going to vary. It's not going to be. It shouldn't be a huge variant between a flip grade versus a rental grade renovation, right? The only difference is like I said, the high end materials on the back end, but mechanicals are going to run you the same amount, are going to run you the same number. It's ultimately like up to that ends buyer, right, to determine what his or her goals are with that property, whether it's a rental or whether it's a flip. Like, I guess like the rule of thumb would be that if you're going to go rental, right, you usually will put lower end materials or more durable materials in, which will ultimately give you the opportunity like to refinance, right? Because you have a lower barrier of entry, and now you're trying to make your money on the cash flow side. Versus when you're flipping, you're trying to put the higher grade stuff in to force the ARV as high as possible so that you can sell at the top of the market and make it much profit on the back end.
And to like touch on that, like say if I got a house that's in like the suburbs, right? Rent is typically you're not really, some people got rentals in the suburbs, but typically I get a lot of flips out there.
Right.
So my price point for entry is going to be a little higher, but my ARV is going to be higher too. So say if I'm locking something up for 150, right? It didn't need 80K worth of work, but the ARV is 400. That makes it's a flip. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
But it's like if you need 70K of work, that mean that they're gonna have to rent it out for $3,500, $4,000. People not really renting stuff out in the suburbs like that. You get what I'm saying? It makes sense for a flip.
Another big thing too is like understanding as a real estate investor, right? And Lim, you could touch to this point. It's not over renovating your property. A lot of people like when it comes on the investment side, right? Like there's a difference between making something nice and over renovating it.
Right.
Your goal isn't to like put the finishes or to have the property look like the property that you live in. You're making those decisions of the finishes or the outcome of the property based off the numbers.
Bro.
So you don't want to over renovate, and it happens a lot. Like people buy a property, let's say for 50,000. Realistically, they should probably put 60,000 in, but they put in 100 because they're trying to make it look like something out the magazine, and then they get punished when it's time to get.
I see it all the time, bro.
You're trying to figure out a way to spend the least amount of money to maximize your profit.
Right. You want to be
That's
efficient.
it. Every dollar you spend comes out of your profit at the end. So definitely keep that in mind. And what you two just touched on is that a lot of things is the buyer has to do their due diligence, right? The buyer has to do their due diligence when they're talking to you and they're getting the rehab numbers, right? And you got to do your due diligence when you get numbers, and you got to do your own research to see what the numbers are. So with mobile home investing, that's important too, right? When you're looking to rehab a home, the first thing you need to do is you need to talk to the park, and you need to get the park standards and regulations, right? Because you can look at a home and say, hey, I want, and look at the things that you think that you're going to rehab and the price that it's going to cost. But some parks have standards that you have to abide by before they even allow you to sell the home. And a lot of that stuff is on the outside of the home. They care about what the home looks like on the exterior to, make their park look good. So a lot of parks will require you to put shingles on the roof, put vinyl siding on the home, right? Paint the home, fix the skirting. Like these are a lot of things that can be some big, expenses and repair costs that can, alter your deal. So before you even look at repairs, that's the first thing you need to look at to see if, those expenses fit into your deal.
Yeah, I mean, to Lim's point, for, I guess, the listeners that are more flip or bird strategy, I guess, oriented, right? That's what they want to do. You gotta, that same logic applies in regards to renovations, in regards to if you want to rent to Section 8 or if you want to, your end buyer for that flip is using like a traditional mortgage. There's certain things that you're going to have to do because most traditional lenders are going to require an inspection, and they want to ensure that certain things are being done on the property. And there's no difference with Section 8, right? Like if you as a landlord, especially new landlords, if your end goal is Section 8 because you want that guaranteed money, you gotta operate with the understanding that Section 8 is gonna inspect that property, and they're essentially gonna walk your property with a checklist and ensure that certain things are done. And if those things aren't done to the property, they're gonna require those things be done before that property passes inspection.
Right.
I feel that.
So you gotta do your due diligence
Always.
beforehand.
You always trust but verify. Always.
For sure.
Speak on, let's get the timeline real quick. So when you doing a project, and since you managing it from a distance, is it a certain time, like start to finish, I'm trying to get in and out of this in 30 days or less, 60 days? Like what's your time?
Yeah, so for like a lipstick for me, which is like, once again, it's like light cosmetics, right? Direct replacement, lights, floors, paint, etc. Yeah, I'm trying to get in and out within 30 days. Like usually, like if I'm closing on a Friday, like sometimes, like my last project, I had the guys in there Saturday. Sometimes it's Monday, right? It just depends on material and scheduling. But yeah, I'm trying to get in 30 days or less, right? So I could get it to either my property manager or the tenant placement team to try to get me a tenant as soon as possible. Some instances, I've showed the property like as it's almost, the renovation is almost completed. For your more medium stuff, I would probably say 2 to 3. And then for like your full gut, I would think maybe like 4 to 6 months, right? Just depending on permits, right? If you're pulling permits, you're at the city's mercy in regards to them analyzing your permits and also conducting inspections. And then sometimes what happens is, you may fail inspections. So then you have to then go in and revise the work to that inspector's liking, so you could ultimately pass the inspection.
Right. Well, mobile home investing, most of my rehabs are cosmetic work. Okay. Only. I'm doing floors, soft spots in the floors, the holes in the walls. I'm painting. I'll fix the skirting on the outside, and I'll put down some carpet, stuff like that. Clean it up. I might put some backsplash up or something like that. But everything is straight up cosmetic, and usually when I buy the house, it's usually sold in about 30 days. So usually 2 weeks to fix it up, 2 weeks to find a seller, and I'm in and out, and I'm using the most affordable material, and I'm doing it the most affordable way. Like typically now, when I buy a home, I'll fix the subfloor. Mm-hmm. I'll put all new flooring down, carpet, and then some vinyl sheet flooring in the bathrooms and in the kitchen. And then I'll power wash the outside. I'll paint. Okay. And then if there's some skirting missing on the outside, I'll replace that. And I'm usually in 5 bands total.
How fast though?
2 weeks. 2 weeks. Okay. Sometimes in a week. Like I got a project right now that they just finished in a week.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
So like, yeah, it depends. I'm in and out. And with me, time is money, because the longer I have it, the longer I got to pay that lot rent. So I'm trying to be in and out. You get what I'm saying?
Pause. Yeah, that was OD. So like with me, I'm going to touch on 2 points. Like with the wholesaling timeline, I'm 30 days or less. So when I lock that contract up, I'm finding that buyer within the next 3 days, getting them in there for a walkthrough. You need to close on this within 3 to 4 weeks. I'm requiring EMD, which is earnest money deposit, to be due within 24 hours. So like that's the wholesale timeline. As far as like with my renovations, like I said, I buy R1 properties and I'm turning them into duplexes. So my timeline got way better than when I first started.
Right.
So since I'm GCing my own stuff now, I'm at like 4 to 5 months. I want to crack that 90-day mark. 5 months if I'm doing plans, pool plans, every
it the right way.
For sure.
It's gonna cost you money if you don't.
It's gonna cost you money on the back end. But from start to finish, demo all the way up to turning that into 2 units, 4 to 5 months is what like I said.
All right.
Right. Nah.
All right, so Lem, tell the people where they can find you at.
All right, so you can find me on @YoungLem on Instagram, and make sure y'all follow the pod at the Money Room Pod, and y'all can ask any questions in the DM. We'll be answering them on future episodes.
I'm at Molly5. You can find me on Instagram.
I'm at Living Good Ant. Like Lem said, make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe. If you have any additional questions or would like any further information, make sure y'all tap into the Money Room Blueprint. That's our comprehensive course where we give insight into all 3 real estate investment strategies. And thank y'all for tuning in.
I appreciate y'all for tapping into the Money Room.